Well, hello everybody. It's showtime. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. It's Thursday with the awesome Dr. Dennis Carroll again. We're very happy to be talking about, well, as we know, some very significant topics at the moment that are rearing their heads. Crazy times indeed we're living in, but wonderful to have the experts who can share their knowledge. But before I bring Dr. Dennis on, Sherelle, you're such a sweetheart. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining the membership. I really, really appreciate you. And I know this was done early today, and I know you are an Aussie, so you might well be snoozing by now. But I hope you catch the rerun, and a great big thank you. And yes, please, guys, join our membership Arrow Tribe, where we're putting in quite a bit of extra content, having live shows with some of our guests as well. And Dr. Dennis is coming on there soon as well. I'm not sure he knows it yet, though, but we will already just entice him. Dr. Dennis, you're in the back room. You can hear me, right? There he is. Anyway, kidding. So, yeah, and I think the Patreons, if you're on our Patreon, just check out the Patreons. We've posted the JC membership show on there, I think a couple of hours ago. It's on there, so enjoy. And yes, let me just check to see what's going on. Other than that, for tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, it's not on the schedule, but Aki Mara will be joining me. He was unable to join on Monday, but Aki Mara, which is the same time as now, so tomorrow, 24 hours from now, we'll be chatting to Aki Mara again, who is the Secret Space Program survivor, as well as Montauk Project, and we're going to be talking about how they harvest energy in the music industry and the truth about the music industry. So yeah, he's definitely had some experiences there, and I know that there will be stuff that he hasn't disclosed yet. So come and join us for that tomorrow with Akim Ra. And without any further ado, ta-da, the resident expert on anything that's demonish. Hello, Dr. Dennis. How are you?
All right. Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, it is a good idea for people out there to definitely join some of these and join in the membership of some of these programs because these are the
Absolutely.
places where you can really get a handle on some of the real truth that's going on in this world.
Absolutely. You
That's
know what
always,
sorry, Dennis, carry on.
nah, I said that's always a good idea.
Yeah.
Stay with the truth. Yeah.
I think, for me with a membership, especially the Arab membership, the YouTube one, it's easier to do live shows and stuff on this as well. But it's nice to have people coming in and, with a membership, you get
Yep.
to ask questions, you get to actually have more personal interaction with some of our guests. So join that, and we'll be also obviously talking about things that we can't really talk about here. Although YouTube, man, even with a membership, they're dodgy. They're kind of got their little algorithms going and pop, pop, pop. I mean, I'm demonetized so often it's ridiculous. But anyway, they don't always shut me down anymore. Now they just demonetize me. I'm like, okay, what can I say? At least the show's out there. Anyway, Dennis, do you want to just maybe open for us in prayer before we begin, please? Thank you.
Yes, let's do that. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we humble ourselves before you today. Ask that you give us a good program, that you let us be articulate with the truth that you have given us, and that we may show it and reveal it to other people. And we ask you, Lord, that you would bless everyone listening and watching this program today, that you will open not only their minds, but their spiritual eyes to the things that they need to see and discern. We ask this in the one name to which all power is given in heaven and earth. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord, we humbly pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dennis. And welcome everybody in the chat. Kyle, Janice, everyone, Joanne, Maureen. Lovely to see everybody. And is Lisa D, I wonder? Lisa D, are you here? No, I don't see Lisa D.
Mhm.
Anyway, welcome everybody. And we're going to be talking about the shadow science with Dr. Dennis Carroll.
Mhm.
Well, Dennis, why don't I just ask you to give us a little bit of a synopsis, an understanding of what you mean, because I know that's kind of a term you've coined. What goes under that umbrella of shadow science for Dr. Dennis Carroll?
Yeah, so shadow science is a term I gave it. I used to call it dark alchemy years ago, and it is a dark alchemy, definitely in many aspects, by the way they spin stuff and the way they get us to believe, or what we think they want us to believe. That's the interesting part of it. But shadow science, behind human science, there is a shadow. There's something back there that's not right. It's dark. It's not good. True human science endeavors to answer questions, seeks to understand things in the correct way and with an open mind, and question and understand things and experiment with things to see what their properties are. That's what true science is. Okay. Well, the science that we hear about a lot is not that way. I'm going to give you a quick example. Right now, they're saying that they actually have cloned the dire wolf and brought it back. This is not true. This is not
I
really the
saw
dire
that.
wolf, okay? It is just a little part of the dire wolf. I think it's like 14 genomes in it that it had to have a 90, I think, percent thing. But this is the way they're presenting things. And I've had a lot of people, Shanty, ask me over the years, why are they trying to cover up some of this stuff? Why are they misleading us on so many things? And shadow science goes into UFOlogy, it goes into cryptozoology, it goes into paranormal and spiritual research. It goes into every aspect of the paranormal and the supernatural. It goes into every aspect of our lives when we look at anthropology, astronomy, we look at aerodynamics, we look at anthropology, archaeology. The list goes on and on and on. What are they covering up here? Why are they misleading us sometimes? I've had people ask me that over the years. And it's not just the money. A lot of money is involved in this. Research grants and all that. That's what drives science. Okay. Mainline science is driven by money. Everything in this world
Right,
is, by the way. That's the world system. Science
exactly.
is part of it. Yeah, science is part of it. But look at some of the things in just recent history that we have endured with certain, shall I say, problems we had health wise that we were given supposed to be serums for this. And they told us, oh, you got to have this. You need to have this, but yet we don't know what it's going to do to you. Well, that's not good. That's
Exactly.
shadow science, folks. Okay, that's not the real
Right.
thing. I would not give you any kind of medicine not knowing what it's going to do to you. But most doctors do that. Most all of them do this stuff because they
Right.
believe the shadow science. Just what is shadow science? We're going to get to the origin of that in just a moment, because everything on this planet has a beginning, just like you and I had a beginning, okay? Everything has a beginning, and so does shadow science. And we're going to talk about its beginning in a few minutes, but I just want you to see the big scope of how it works, how it activates things, and how it is deep into AI now, and deep into quantum computer mechanics, deep into all this type of stuff is shadow science. It is the true shadow behind what's really going on in this world. And it is trying to cover up a lot of things because it's got, I hate to say this, but it's watching its own hindquarters, okay? It is
Right.
really, you're really protecting yourself. If I were a physician, I want you to think about this for a moment. You come to me with pain, okay, or whatever your situation is. As a physician, I say, how much money can I make on this first? And how can I protect myself? Because if I mess up, you might sue me. And all the way I think of all these things is down the line, somewhere at the bottom of the list is your welfare. Okay? They don't care how much pain you're in, and if they're going to cure you or kill you, as long as they can get out of it without being sued and make a lot of money. Well, the big pharmaceuticals do this, okay?
Of course they do.
Everybody does this in the health field. I've been in the health field I was in it for 30 years. I know how these guys operate. And I know it is all a baseline thing is money. It's not for the help of humanity. It's not beneficial in that respect. It's all about money. And when you look at dark science and other things in this world, you've got to understand about the dark money. That's another thing. So you've got dark science, you've got dark money working in these aspects as well. And that dark money has an origin too. And we're going to talk about that as well. But the shadow science is what's driving all this stuff. Why are they covering up stuff? Have you ever really asked yourself, why do they not want to acknowledge that giants really walk this world? You know? Why do they want to tell us that certain dinosaurs may have existed that did not? Why are they misleading us? Every which way you turn around. I have even actually seen photos that NASA has put out that were composites. They weren't the real thing. Some of them were airbrushed. Some of them were put out that way. And they say, oh, this is a recreation. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. Okay. When you get down to a recreation, it's more imagination than it is fact. Okay. Exactly. That's the way it goes. Yeah.
An overactive imagination by the looks of things.
Yeah. You know, we've got to understand how they're operating and how they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. As my friend Jessica Jones said the other day, they're really good at pulling the wool over your eyes. Okay. They know how to do this. It's all a cover up. So why do they want to, down biblical archaeology that finds a lot of stuff going on? They always are dissing that, They're always down on, oh, there's no such thing as no giants, the bones mysteriously disappear. The photos get missing. They come up missing. There's a lot of this going on, folks. And people ask you need to ask yourself, why? Why? What are they up to here? It's not about the money only. It's not about the grants and the research stuff that they get from companies that are backing all this. That's part of it. That's a big part of it, but that's not the main reason. Because the real shadow science, and we're going to talk about its origin now, comes from dark, shadowy places, folks. It comes from a very nefarious place. Remember me, I've talked about many times on many different shows about fallen angels, okay? And where they began at the very beginning of humanity and the very beginning of this world, have been with us since then and will be with us until the end. And they are the ones who instigated the very beginning of this dark science. They gave mankind certain things. Yeah, they gave us certain sciences. They gave us the ability to wage warfare. They gave us the ability to do chemical stuff. They gave us all of these different abilities for a reason. It wasn't because they loved us, okay? If I give you a gift, Shanty, it's usually because I kind of care for you. I love you, I want you to have some. But these guys are not doing that for that motive. That's not what they're up to. They're up to for one reason and one reason only. They're going to give us enough rope to hang ourselves. Exactly. That's what they want to do. Yeah. And that's where all this comes in. I'm going to ask you, I asked somebody in a lecture one time years ago, who invented the atomic bomb? It wasn't God. God didn't have anything to do with that. So who was it? Who was it that helped those guys come up with the atomic bomb? It wasn't good guys. I don't think it was. I don't think it was the good angels that did it. What else have you got? Who are the usual suspects here, folks? Okay. It's fallen angel guys, and they're in behind a lot of this stuff. And let me tell you, the
archives. Yeah.
They have their own technology, Shanty.
Yeah.
Fallen angels in heaven have a technology, by the way. It's a celestial technology. You got a lot of clues to this in the Bible, by the way, and other books that tell about it as well. They have their own technology, okay? So do the fallen angels. When they got thrown out, they took their technology with them. But now it is perverted technology. It is instigated for one reason and one reason only: deceit and destruction. That's basically what it's all about. Deceive and destruct with it. That's what they're using it for. And, we go back and we say, where did they come up with this at? Or where did they go find microwaves at? And all this other stuff. And it takes so many years to come down. They're giving us little pieces at a time to seed us with this dark science so that we will go further with it. Look what's coming up next. Look what they have done with AI. Matter of fact, I sent you a photo the other day, Shanty, of dark science. And I was playing around with AI imagery. And I came up, and that's what AI gave me as an image of dark science. Okay. He showed me that. And I was playing around with it. I'm not that very familiar with a lot of AI, but this is remarkable stuff that it's that smart. It can do these things and draw pictures for you and write songs and stories for you. This is wild stuff, but this is nothing. You've got to remember this stuff has already been compromised by the bad guys. They're
Exactly.
in everything, and that's where this dark science is coming in. And that's what real dark science is. It stands behind the science of mankind, pushing it in the direction it wants it to go. That's why there's so much dark secrets and cover-ups going on in this stuff. That's why the real truth is not getting out. Do you think they're ever going to tell you the real truth about UFOs? Where did UFOs come from? Celestial science. It comes from
Right.
angels and angelic sources. That's how they move around and get places, okay? I mean, if we really truly knew just how much dark science was pulling that wool over our eyes, we would be very angry about it. We definitely would be mind blown by it because it works in every aspect of our society. So we got to understand what's really going on here, what the real picture is, what real shadow science is, and what it's for. It is geared not for us, not as a help to us, but as a hindrance, as a trap. It's a
I agree.
snare, it's a scheme. Yeah,
I agree.
that's all it is. Yeah.
Because the reason why I so strongly agree with you there is because
Absolutely.
the human trap is that we get caught up in the physical. It's all about the physical and the material, and we tend to externalize things. In other words, we will often take an external person's advice or that sort of thing. And that's how they've dumbed us down over the years. With the fluoride in the water, all of these things, they've dumbed down our natural spiritual gifts. So we've become more technologically. I mean, when I grew up, when I was born, we didn't have any technology. I want to tell you other than a telephone, really, in the last 30 to 40 years, the way technology has changed is on another level. So they've really boosted up their disconnection from true spirit. And that's what all this I mean, look how many Netflix you can tune into. Look at YouTube. I mean, YouTube has got billions of people and podcasts and stuff on. People are always distracted and with their phones and stuff. So when we go back to, I just want to finish off by saying that when that becomes our life, we then take the word of the news or the medical profession or whatever. You need this, you need that, you need the Neuralink, you need that because it's going to do this, that. Everything that is external to yourself is now told you it's going to make you better or stronger or whatever, or heal you or whatever. I have a problem with that because in my experience and my truth as a healer over the years, your body is designed to heal itself. I don't care what anyone says. I've done it to my own body. I have worked with people who have had medically incurable diseases. And when we work with the source of the issue, the body heals and transforms. So my point is your body is your portal. Your body is your spaceship, whatever the hell you want to call it, okay? Your body is the thing in which your spirit expresses itself. You cannot express your spirit or your journey without your body. So your body is the most precious gem you'll ever possess. And if you think you can abuse your body and get away with it, think again, because all you're doing is you're keeping yourself grounded And we talk about that because through your body, heaven is within you. That's what Jesus said. Heaven is a place within you. So when you discover heaven within you, you understand the purpose and the power that your body truly holds. And it has nothing to do with how big you are, or how fast you can run, or how many guns you can shoot, or how many defenseless people you can kill, whatever. It has nothing to do with that. And it is spiritual attunement and alignment with God, your most high, the most divine. And when you align with that, your body heals itself. And that's when we transform. We don't need medicine. We don't. We need herbs, medicine, stuff like that. Your food is your medicine. What you eat, what you put into your body. Your thoughts are your medicine. Your emotions are your medicine or your poison. Everything you choose to process within your body on a spiritual, emotional, mental, or physical level is really a reflection of what's happening within you. And that's how your soul will either evolve, expand its consciousness, or you're going to spiral down into that deep, dark, hellish place. That's the way I see it, Dennis. I don't know what your take is on that.
Well, you see, that is exactly what dark science is doing. Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's very true. Your body was made to heal itself. That's the way you were created. Okay. But dark science says, oh, no. Forget all about that. Forget about the spiritual aspect of things. It dehumanizes. This dark science dehumanizes the human science that we rely on so much. It dehumanizes it to the part where it says there's no such thing as a spiritual aspect of that. That's what dark science wants, okay? And I'm glad you brought fluoride up because who made fluoride? Adolf Hitler. Do you think God gave him the idea for that? No. It came from dark science, okay, folks?
Right.
That's the way it operates. And that's the way
and an inversion.
They got it fixed this way so that it's just another way to make you a slave of the world system that it backs up all the time, So you'll buy the medicine, so you'll buy the cough syrup that you need, and all this other stuff. That's part of it too. Dark science, and that's where it gets its dark money at. Absolutely.
And I want to say, Midwest Night Watchers, I agree, but I'm going to say it's the illusion of separation from God. Mankind, humanity experiences on this earth plane the illusion of separation. We've never been separated. We've always been connected. It's up to us to realize that, though. And that comes through discernment, spiritual practice, whatever it is, people choose to call it. And in that way, you realize when you are one with God, your creator, you can never hate yourself again. You could never, when you know this, you could never even think a bad thought about yourself again. You know you are loved. You will know it's not even a thought, an intellectual thing. It's something that vibrates in your cells. And that's when you have a spiritual glow up. It's like your spiritual light shines. Your body heals itself. Your confidence increases. Your energy increases. And that's what God, in my opinion, wants for all of us. Not to be living in misery and pain and suffering. And we need to put down our warring thoughts and really live from the heart.
Absolutely. We got to understand that they're trying to distract us from the real truth of these things.
Totally.
Yeah, they're trying to keep our minds and our bodies away from the things they want us to do because this is all about control on their part. And that's where the dark science comes in. It's another implement, another tool in their arsenal of control over us that we got to understand. And I say that's why it has such a dark and evil origin to it. It's what its purpose is. And these guys are enemies of truth and light and love and goodness. They are enemies of it. They don't want you to go that route. That's why they separate these things from the spiritual aspects of things and dehumanize it. And they are dehumanizing things to the point where they look upon us as cattle. We're nothing more than that, to be used, abused, and then discarded. And that's why a lot of this dark experimentation is going on in the world. A lot of these things that you see, these psyops that are going on, and all this other things. Why are some of these secret enclaves and small bases being found under shopping centers and Walmart and places like that? Why are they there? Because they're closer to humanity for experimentational purposes. That's what they're doing. That's what they're using these things for. And it's all about using us like cattle. They don't care about us. Like I said, this dark science does not care one moment about you or your well being. It
No.
cares only about its control over things. And it uses companies like the big pharmaceutical companies. And I can tell you, I guarantee you without a doubt, that they have already cured certain diseases. But they don't want you to know that because they make more money off of treating it than curing you.
You know, for me, and I fully agree. They've brought all of these things into our existence, you know, and now we're looking, for example, at this chemtrail sprays they're using, you know, all this stuff in our technology, right? Joanne was actually putting up a message earlier, and I saw that what they're doing. Yeah, just had also African blood crystals with that crystal's from Namibia, by the way. It's some copper crystal or something. That crystal comes from Namibia, which is very, very interesting, because if you look at Namibia, the Moon Valley, forms part of Earth's original crust. So that's how old Namibia is. And it is truly a magnificent country. And you go there, and yet you see how much mining happens there for things that are illegal in other parts of the world, but they're allowed, for example, to mine it in Namibia. Namibia is super important when it comes to, I don't know, what do you call it, positioning or something, the way for what they want. They harvest a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dennis?
Yeah, surveillance, of things.
Yeah.
It all ties in, Chantelle. Let me say this, okay?
Yeah.
And we got to understand this one thing. This very important aspect of all this is the fact that they are looking to not only manipulate us, but actually change the reality for us. That is the complete control over us. This is magic, by the way, black magic, okay, to a certain extent, because, you know, I've said that before and we've done shows about that. Black magic is nothing but changing the reality of things to the way you want it to be. And usually it's very dark. This is really the bad way to go. That's the way they do. And look at this dark science, what it is doing. It is doing to the mainline science, okay? There used to be a saying, and we've said this before, and we've heard it many times, follow the science. Well, I advise you not to do that, okay? Because most of that science has been compromised and screwed up by this dark science, okay? Our human science is a slave to the dark science, because that's the way it wants it, okay? And it's giving us misleading information. It's giving us misinformation on a grand scale, but it is misleading us, hiding things from us, covering up things, and manipulating us on a grand scale.
Absolutely. It totally does. Totally. You know what's interesting to me, though, is that it really, what's become apparent to me is that it's you know, we've heard a lot about the archons and how that all, you know, what their agenda here is. And it's clear to me that, you know, and it really has become clear to me that these guys are really fighting over us. You know, they're fighting over this planet. They're fighting over humanity. They're those of us, they're those that want to help us. They're those that don't want to help us. But then, you know, I have to think about, Dennis, why are they all fighting over us? Yes, we talk about our consciousness and our loosh and this and that and the next thing and all these wonderful potentials that us humans have. But then I wonder to myself as well, There's got to be more to it than
Well,
that.
we got to understand something. I want to clarify this for everybody. Okay, when
Yeah.
I'm talking about fallen angels, I'm not talking about demons. Okay,
Yeah.
they're
No,
another class here. Okay, they work for the fallen angels. They work in cooperation with them. They're a part of it, yes, but they're two different things here going on. Who are the fallen angels? They are celestial beings who fell out of heaven. Demons did not come from heaven, folks. Okay, that's
no.
not where they come from. Demons never walked this earth as real human beings like you and I have. That's why they hate us from many aspects. I'll get into that one day. We need to do a show on nothing but demons one day because it's a very interesting subject, demons and fallen angels, because they're two different things altogether. Okay, I call it the unholy three here you're talking about. You're talking about Satan, you're talking about fallen angels, and you're talking about demons. Okay, got to go at it three different ways here. The fallen angels are brilliantly super smart, intelligent beings, folks. Okay, they were very powerful. Let me tell you what, just to illustrate a point. And I was telling somebody this the other day. There's actually a record in the Bible of one of God's angels, just one, walked into a camp of the Assyrians and killed 100,080 troops in one night. Think about that. The king of Assyria said, I'm going to take Jerusalem, and God's not even going to stop me, but God had other plans, okay? And he sent that angel in there and wiped out 180,000 soldiers in one night. When they woke up the next morning, the ones that were left, they got the heck out of Dodge real quick because they knew they were licked, okay? One angel can do that. But now look at the fallen angels. They have lost a lot of their power. They have been perverted. They have been twisted. They've been corrupted. They are different beings now. They are very much look like the reptilians that people talk about. That's what they are in many aspects, okay?
Right.
I know because I've seen them. I've seen what their true form and image is. And that's what they look like now. They don't look like beautiful angels of light and goodness anymore. They're not. They've lost it. They've lost their spirituality. And they're if they ever had souls, they've lost those as well, okay? But you're looking at two different things. So these guys, these fallen angels are super smart. They have been the watchers for untold millions of years. They know languages that you and I have never even heard of. They have been all over this galaxy, all over this universe. That's what their job was. They have accumulated knowledge that you and I could never have in one single little human lifetime. There's no way. No supercomputer can ever match these guys. So that's what you're looking at. That's behind the dark science. Okay? This celestial technology, if you want to call it extraterrestrial, you're still saying the right thing. It didn't come from this planet. It came from up there somewhere. It came from heaven. Okay? That's where it originated at. But now it's been perverted, twisted, turned to the darkness and evil side of things. And it's down here with us, and it's behind our science. It's behind our education. It's behind our religion. It's behind our teachers. It's behind every bit of that stuff. And that's where this dark science is coming from. That's what I'm talking about when I say dark science. And do you trust that? Can you really trust that? No, you can't. Not for 1/2 of a millisecond can you trust that. Because look where it's coming from. Always look at the origin and see, well, where is that coming from? That tells you the big picture. It always does.
It does. Yeah, absolutely does. Wow.
And
they
when you know something is coming from a bad place, can you trust it? No, you cannot. And it is an enemy for you. You got to look at it that way. You know, a lot of people do not realize today, and I'm not going to get into politics here, but look at China. It is the enemy of the world. It is the enemy of the free world. Russia don't even know it's one of its most deadly enemies. China has got plans, folks, to take over this planet, and it's going to accomplish it if we don't watch out. Okay.
Yeah.
Certain countries are standing between that, but how long will they stand there? Because this is the darkness of this world that we're talking about. And who do you think is probably helping the Chinese? Where are they getting all these ideas from? They're stealing a lot of it. But who would you think thieves are? The thief comes but to kill, to steal, and destroy. Who told you
Yep.
that? Jesus did. I didn't make it up. Okay. Jesus told you that. And that is one of the enemies. And do you think that do you think the Chinese are buddy with the angels of heaven? Nah. Not in one way. Okay. Not at all. And you got to understand, when you got that kind of enemy, when you got that kind of thing facing you, you better get yourself in the right position and be ready for the true spiritual battle that's coming around these things, and be ready for the real mindset that you need spiritually, mentally, physically. And it's very important physically wise too, and just like you said earlier, if you feed yourself junk, you are junk. Okay. That's just it.
Absolutely.
If you feed yourself junk, that's what you are. You are what you eat. Okay. I used to have a friend of mine. He would eat nothing but sausage. Sausage meat. I said, well, he was almost a pig, okay, because he eats so much of it. That is what you eat, And we got to understand the physical aspects of this ties into the spiritual and mental things that we have. It's all tied in together. And like you said earlier about being a healer and stuff like that, you've got to understand that our Creator created us in a celestial balance. We must be balanced in every way possible for these things to work right. If one thing is out of focus, out of kilter, it's going to throw the rest of it off. So you've got to have perfect balance for these things. Jesus said, and listen to this very closely, a very important statement he made in the Bible: you must have the key of knowledge. To understand these things, you need the key of knowledge to understand how you need to live, how you need to face these things, how your body, mind, and spirit work. That is I call it the human trinity: body, mind, and spirit. And if you disregard either one of those, you're going to have a problem.
Absolutely. It's got to be in alignment. It's got to be in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And then really, what happens is when we get to that point and you're so in tune, because remember, your body is your conduit, right? Because through your body, spirit, God, is operating. So your senses are heightened, which means you will sense danger before it comes, which means you will sense some person who's a scabanger before they arrive. It means God gives you a premonition about things, and it's not coming from the dark forces. It's coming because you're aligned with God. Those are your natural gifts. You must remember, all the dark side has done is taken our natural gifts. All these guys, they've managed to turn right from child. And we know, anyone who's watching this channel knows how the children suffer, how the children are sacrificed, how the kids are taken in to these satanic homes and abused throughout.
When you were a kid, Chantelle, you ever get picked on by bullies? The bullies ever mess with you? If they do, they usually pick on somebody smaller than they are. That's just the way bullies work. Well, that's the way why they're going after these children and animals and stuff like that, because they can kick them around and they don't kick back. See, that's what the whole thing is. So evil always takes on something that it knows it can control better or have an advantage over. Okay.
Exactly.
And if you're ready for evil, on all those three fronts, physical, mental, and spiritually, if you're ready for it, evil don't want to mess with you. What have I said that before? Evil wants you to become a victim because it fears you as a warrior. It don't want to mess with you if you're ready to fight, okay? It's rather you not fight, because then you can be a victim. And that's what it looks on children. That's why it's coming down on children and animals and stuff so much, because it knows it can get away with doing that. It can get away with that attack on children and animals unless we step up and say, hey, you ain't going to do that. You're not going to do that when I'm around. You don't do that. You don't mess with children and animals when I'm around. Okay. Because I have run into that in a lot of situations. I have gone into a lot of houses with demonic infestation and stuff like that going on. And that really gets it for me when it starts attacking children and the animals, the innocent people in that house. That ramps it up for me. And it should for anybody, because we need to step in and be their voice. We need to step in and be their choice for them when they don't have it. Okay. A lot of times they don't have a choice because they don't have a voice. And that's the sad part,
And so true. All the experimentation, and let's never forget how much experimentation, not just in these cryptid labs and things, but how much experimentation goes on in normal laboratories for cosmetic purposes, our vanity, right? Mm-hmm. To make sure our hair color doesn't burn our hair. God knows how many rabbits had to go through suffering for that, right? So it's all sorts of stuff like that we have to become aware of. We've got to become aware of how any of you guys that have watched my shows with Jesse, we've spoken about this a lot. They are putting crushed kids into our food. They're cursing that food, and it's often going to come to you in the form of organic or natural foods, right? The kids that they sacrifice and do whatever, their remains are mixed into cement and built into these Masonic temples and stuff that they do. Everything around us is pretty much, since we do live in the Luciferian. Sorry, Dennis.
Shandy, we call that sacrificial placement. People used to do that whenever they built a church or a big building. They would kill a dog or an animal and place it up under. They find this in archaeology all the time. Would place it up under that building or the doorway of that building to consecrate that place. Well, it would not surprise me that a lot of these so-called temples are doing that with children, the remains of children. Yeah.
It's crazy, and we have to realize that everything, we live on a planet that is governed by the Luciferians. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that everything's bad? No, because ultimately God is in control, right? Now, but we have to be aware and we have to practice discernment. We have to realize that it really is faith over fear. So your body can heal itself. How? I've never heard that before. I hear some of you say, never ever. How do you tell me my broken leg can heal itself like that? Well, I'm telling you it can, if you're in the mindset that it can. And that's what we have to understand. And it's not some evil demonic force that is doing it. Most people are so scared to use their spiritual gifts, to reconnect to their God-given intuition. They are so scared to feel these feelings that God has given us because they've been told it's evil and it's demonic. Nonsense. It's not. If you are led astray, it becomes demonic.
And that is exactly why.
Yeah.
That is exactly why, Chanty, that fear is the enemy of faith. We got to remember that. This is a two-way road we're looking at, folks. Faith over fear, but fear tries to get over faith, okay? Fear tries to combat the faith because it's scared of that faith, because it gets things done.
It does. When you have faith, you really, you don't need to do anything. That's the thing. When you have faith, you don't need to do anything. Everything dissolves around you. Really, it does. And there's no fighting that's necessary. That's the thing. We tend to fight with ourselves or each other because who's right and who's wrong. And you see, we have to realize this is part of and I'm going to call it the shadow science as well, because it's part of their mental manipulation. It's that division, that dividing, that chaos. We know that they really, they rule from the realm of chaos. So anything in your life, like, people will come into your life and create chaos. The question is, can you be that peace within the chaos? Or do you become the chaos too? So people are always going to try and be chaotic, right? The Luciferians are chaotic. They know that's what divides and conquers. The question I have again for you is, are you able to be the peace in the chaos? In other words, stand still within the chaos around you. Can you hold others that can also start standing firm and strong? And you realize that it's really Darp or Harper, right, creating the chaos. It's not a true chaos. It's a fake chaos, because a lot of what they do is fake. It's psyops. They're lying to us about a lot of stuff. Yes, they are. There is a lot of stuff that's true, but there's also a lot of stuff that's not true. So we have to be able to discern.
That's another point I want to make today about dark science. One of the main goals of dark science is to get you to believe in science and nothing else, because that's the way it manipulates and controls. Okay, it is the shadow behind science. It wants to get you to believe the science over anything else. Science, they want science for you to cancel your faith out. They want science to take that out of your mind and take your direction away from the real truth. They want science to cancel out the real truth. And that's why I say they're engaged in so much cover up and deceit and deception, because that's what it's all about, folks. They're trying to lead you as far away from the real truth as possible. And they want to get you to believe in things like the science and education and all these other things that they can take and distract you with away from the real truth of matters. Okay, it's just like Shanti was saying earlier. God designed your body to heal itself. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to look at that, because that's not their goal. That's not part of their control. They especially don't want you to believe in God in any kind of way. Okay, that's the way they work.
They want you to believe in medicine. They want you to believe in the medical mafia. They want you to believe that medicines and doctors, and I'm not going for doctors in any way whatsoever. God bless the doctors, because let me tell you, if I'm in a car accident, I want a doctor, right? And I want anesthetic. So I am saying that for now, at certain point, at certain time, doctors are necessary. But what we really do need is healers. And I'm not talking about any crappy old Skabanga healer that thinks we need people that really understand how the body heals itself. And it starts with spirit. In other words, the spiritual fear, the spiritual disconnection that we have, the judgment that we have on each other is spiritual fear. And we have to understand, as long as we're judging anyone or any other denomination, because you see, if we go back to Tartarian times, right, part of what they've done is they've created different religions, and they've made people divided through different religions in many occasions. So it's like, well, this, that, and now it's New Age spirituality and that. Everyone is fighting about their belief system. That is counterproductive to healing. So when we speak about that type of understanding, where we are actually one, we all belong to God. We are all created from the light of God. God doesn't have 10 million different lights. God is one, and created light for all of us. All of us is a sparkle of God's light. And when we realize that, then no shadow science, no amount of vaccines or chemtrails sprayed on me is going to affect me. It can't affect you anymore. It can't, because your vibration is too high for that toxic energy to sit in you. It dissolves. You dissolve it. Your energy is of that nature that it naturally dissolves toxicity around you and within you. Your body is designed to heal itself. And that's where we get to that place when we realize we don't need the Neuralink. We don't.
We're not getting down on doctors and nurses here, okay? Because they do a wonderful job on things. They are trying to help people. I understand that, but they're also following the wrong signs. Okay, they're following the wrong precepts of things a lot of times. They're being misled, just the same as you and I are being misled on a lot of things. Okay, that's human nature, but they are being misled by these dark signs, away from the spiritual aspects of things. They're leaving God completely out of this thing. Just like you said earlier about the body was designed by your creator to heal itself, to right itself. If especially it has that balance, everything is lined up. If you got all your ducks in a row like you're supposed to, it's going to be a whole lot better for you. Definitely.
Exactly. But the whole thing is, it's not just about having an illness and praying that God takes my cancer away.
Well, you gotta do your part.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, we have to understand, why did I get cancer to begin with? Was it because I was abusing my body with too much whatever? Was it because I had too much stress? And the thing is, we have to look at the part of our body that is affected. Each part of your body means something. This is the secret to healing. As a healer, I'll tell you this. Each part of your body means something. If your liver is affected, it's telling me something about where you are blocked as a person. If a woman has breast cancer, which breast do you have it in? That's telling me something about where your pain lies. If you have back operations, that's telling me something about where your pain lies. So my point is that we've got to understand how important our bodies are. They are not just meat suits. Your body is the most intelligent gem you will ever possess. It contains around 30 trillion cells. One cell contains enough information to write 1,000 books of 600 pages each. Your body is your spirit, your soul in physical form. When you get that,
God in his word says your body is a temple. Okay.
Yes.
And you should look upon it that way. You don't go in and mess up a temple and mess around and leave stuff around and put junk in there. You venerate it. You make it, you consecrate it. Is something, and a lot of times, and we may not do things to get cancer and other things. It just may happen. That's okay too. We shouldn't feel guilty about it because, hey, that's life. Things happen like that. But once we get ill, or once we have some kind of disease, we need to start trying to help that healing our own selves. You can't just sit there and say, "Okay, God, go ahead and heal me up," okay, and not do anything about it. Not try to promote good health. Don't get out and try to exercise or whatever it is the situation is. Unless you got to help it. God helps those that help themselves. Okay, that's our number one rule. And if you start trying to promote your own health, trying to get your own health back up to where it goes, God will meet you with that. He will venerate that. He will help you with that. That's where the spiritual aspects of all this stuff, folks, comes in.
It's so true because, if there's one thing I can say to people as a healer, doesn't matter what's going on around you, doesn't matter how many werewolves there are, doesn't matter how much chemtrails there are, doesn't matter how many people around creating war around you, right? Mm-hmm. When you as an individual have taken spiritual responsibility, in other words, you choose to step into truth. And when I say choose to step into truth, when we do that, we have to understand that everything that is not our truth is going to be exposed.
That is so correct, Chantelle, because what you just said is what? An act of faith.
Exactly. Many of us, Dennis, I cannot tell you how many people I've worked with over the years, and I'm going to slightly disagree with you on something you said earlier. You said maybe cancer just happens. I disagree with that. I think part of taking responsibility...
You might not have had anything to do with it beginning. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Yeah, you can do
consciously.
things to get yourself into these situations. You can live a
Yeah.
certain lifestyle that will promote that thing. But I'm saying, even if you did live healthy, and a lot of healthy people get cancer, sometimes it doesn't
Cancer is
happen
an
because of
emotional
things you do.
disease.
Here's the thing about it, though, Shanty. We don't have a whole lot of control over our environment. Look at what's happening to us today. We're becoming plastic.
But that's part of the dumbing down. And that's our responsibility. That's why I say it's our responsibility to make sure that we are not dumbed down anymore. If we know drinking water or juices out of a certain bottle contains cancerous carcinogens, whatever, stop it. Stop drinking it. You see, it's like we've given our power away to the government. And that's the problem. We need to take back responsibility of our health by planting our own foods, veggies, whatever it might be, working together in communities to make that happen. This is how we create the change we want to see and want to be. So it's really amazing when we can actually look at that in the way that saying, I no longer choose to drink 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day. I no longer choose to eat processed foods all day. Within 3 months or 6 months, I want to have my vegetable garden. I'm going to grow it. I'm going to see what that's like. You see, this is how cancer, firstly, is an emotional disease on one level. Any part of the body that gets the cancer is starved of something. And this is how, when we start looking at how the body speaks and how it communicates with us, this is how we get strong. So it's on a spiritual level, it's an emotional level, it's a mental level, and then it's going to manifest physically. And very often it's generational. But it's up to us then to stop that generational illness. And we do that through spiritual fitness. And when we have that, the demons and whatever else don't even come near us. Because we're vibrating on a much higher level. We've taken responsibility for our health, for our well-being. It's
That's
amazing,
because you're no
actually.
longer a victim. That's why I say they're looking for a victim. They're looking for something they can, manipulate, control. Definitely. But I agree with you. There are certain things we can do to safeguard ourselves, whatever they may be, physically, mentally, and spiritually, against a lot of these things. But unfortunately, our environment is polluted. There's a lot of plastic and everything. No matter what you do, you're going to run into that. But if we do the right things, if we do and try to live the right way, that will help offset some of the stuff that's going on in our environment, some of the pollution they have done and all this. I mean, they're finding pieces and particles of plastic in the Antarctic where nobody goes. This whole planet has been infected with plastic. That was the worst thing mankind ever invented, was plastic, folks. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. But
And
and I
look
agree with
at,
you. Though. I agree with you that what the things that we do will help offset that we can't
yeah,
control. You understand what I'm saying?
absolutely. Absolutely. We really can. And we have to understand, yes, we're living in a planet that's currently governed by the Luciferians. And now we're either going to get smart and we're going to elevate ourselves out of the matrix, which really, to me, the matrix is hell on earth, right? If you want to look at it in that way. And what keeps us there? Disconnection keeps us there. Disconnection from spirit, disconnection from ourselves, each other, all our technologies. I mean, they've gone to so many great lengths to affect our brains, our minds, our pineal glands, our health with the technologies and things that they're putting out there for us. But as we're waking up, nothing touches your spirit. Nothing can affect your elevated consciousness that is coming from within you that belongs to God. God is way outranking whatever you want to call it, anything like that. That stuff looks like a flea on a dog's back then. It's amazing, actually. Faith over fear. True faith coming from your heart means you don't even have to fight anymore. God takes care of it for you. That's what faith is.
Well, that's where faith comes in, definitely. And that shield of faith that you promote around you comes also from the inner peace that you get from that. That inner peace radiates out of you and puts that shield or bubble or whatever name you want to call it around you that keeps out negative forces and includes disease too, by the way, because diseases are
Totally.
negative. Yeah, that's a negative thing as well. So you got to remember it affects you those three ways that we talked about so much. It affects you physically, mentally, and spiritually. If you are doing this the right way, you will have good mental discernment going on. You will have a good you'll have, the Bible calls it a refreshing of the mind. That's what it is. You're refreshing your mind. You're getting it right where it needs to be, and the kind of thoughts that you need to have, and that's part of the faith too. Okay, that runs with that as well. And another thing is when you get yourself physically in line with this, and spiritually in line with this, that radiates out from you and gives you that personal shield of peace and protection that you need around you. That will keep these dark negative forces away from you and repel them from messing with you in all three different ways. And I've told this to people so much over the years, Shanty. You know, you got to close the doors to the negativity, and that's how you do it. You close the doors to the negativity by blocking these things out in those three different ways. Those are the three gates to your very soul, per se, because you are a living soul, and those three things make you a living soul and what you are as a child of God. And if you keep those doors guarded well from all the outside negative influences that are around you, you will live a much better life. You will then truly live a life of faith. And these things hate faith. What did we say earlier? Fear is the enemy of faith. It hates that faith because it puts you in the
Exactly.
right commanding position and not them. They don't like that. They're bullies, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I really think also at this time, of course, we understand that, they really are just as, if I look back to the whole pandemic, we understand so many people woke up from the pandemic, right? And I think this is also what's happening now. This is part of the awakening process that people are experiencing now. And this is why it's so amazing to have chats like this with an amazing viewers. I love our viewers. I have to say, I love our chats and our viewers. All vibing on the same type of wavelength, which is very cool. Nice to see. But yeah, so really, and at the end of the day, when you are vibing high, I'm telling you, nothing is going to touch you. I don't care what that werewolf looks like. I don't care how big it is. I don't care how big how ugly that pale crawler is. That thing is ugly. Dennis, if I had to see that thing come into my house, pale crawler, right? Wow, that thing is a creepy, creepy thing. Anyway, and look, hey, I think the creepiest of creepy things are going to start surfacing. And this is why we really do have to get our bodies. Your body's your spaceship. It's your portal. It's your connection to God. It is everything you need. It really, really is. It's your most precious gem you'll ever possess. Treasure your body. And I'm not talking about in a vain way where you're not, I like massage, trust me, I like baths, I love those things. My point is it's not in a way that is more vanity based. It's more appreciating how intelligent this amazing vehicle that is your body is. Really, it is incredibly intelligent, and it is there to show you a deeper level of awareness. Pain is not there to curse you or destroy you. It's there to take you to a deeper level of awareness. So appreciate your body. Appreciate that your spirit resides within your body. Your body is so precious to God, really. If there's one thing I can tell you guys over and over and over again over the years as a healer, so many times, when I work with people who've come through a really hard time and a lot of pain and, they're just feeling not like they want to be a human at all anymore. God gives a constant reminder, and in the most beautiful way to me, in the way that I can reach them, of how precious their bodies are, how precious their being is. Not because you're going to sit on a Vogue cover, but because of this incredible human that you are, that is chosen to be here at this time. It's very scary for a lot of us, but we're all here and we're in it together, and we're going to rock it. That's for sure. We're going to rock it. Yay. Dennis.
And we got to remember something too, that these forces are, since they're out so much for control over us, and that is the matrix they've created. That's the world system is the matrix, folks, and we're trapped in it. Okay, we are slaves to it. That's the one thing they've got over us, that they try to get us to dance to their tune with, and we've got to, start thinking in terms of how we get around that matrix, or how we can live outside of that matrix as much as possible. And that includes the world system and all this other stuff that goes with it. And it's the money, the dark money, and all the rest of this stuff. We got to understand, we got to start trying to proactively work our way around these things. We may not be able to completely stamp them out, and we may not have control enough to wipe them out, but we do have control, just like Shandy was saying earlier. We do have control over ourselves right now to a certain extent, okay? And that's what we need to utilize, and we need to, and part of faith is that as well, but also the other things that we can do, in our lives to kind of work our way around. If you can't go through an obstacle and you can't go over it, you can sometimes work your way around it and under it if you need to. Okay. But that's the way we got to start doing. We got to start getting that mentality, and saying, hey, there's another way I can do this. There's some other way I can do this that will benefit me. Let's do it. Let's not try to be slaves to the system that they want us to be in. That's exactly what they're wanting, and that control over us and all the things they do to us. They get away with us with this dark science, with these dark angels that have come up with this stuff. And definitely, we're going to have to do a show on dark angels and demons one day, because people really know what the big difference is.
I need to, yeah.
Yeah. We need to know what the difference is, and we definitely need to know how to, present ourselves against our enemies and things that they're doing. But we got to remember, that's what the dark science is all geared for. It's back there. It's working actively against us. Okay? And when something is against you, you got to be very careful how you deal with it. We need to be very careful. It's like playing with a rattlesnake. Sooner or later, that snake's going to bite you if you're not careful. You shouldn't play with it to begin with. That's what I say. You shouldn't have done that to start with. So we got to be smart. We got to really open our brain cells up and be smarter people than we have been.
Exactly, Dennis. Exactly. That's how we do it. And honestly, it truly begins with you. It begins with how you deal with your stuff, your life, your issues, your pains, your sadnesses, how you transform that and how you take that forward, because that is going to reflect in your body. That reflects in the strength of your body, the way that you're able to perceive the world, navigate the world, everything. So it's so important to take care of ourselves, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and of course, physically. So thank you, guys.
I'll answer your question right quick. You got any comments here? Yeah, I have been involved for many, many years in spiritual deliverance and spiritual warfare over the years. And you got to be careful. You want to help them. That's your main goal. And you got to do it in the correct way. But yes, there is such a thing as deliverance, but God delivers. He helps people. You instigate that. You help with the deliverance of it, but that's up to God mainly. And those people, how they take it, that's part of the thing. We've got to understand, you can fight the spiritual battle all you want, but unless you've got faith to back that fight up with, you're really not getting anywhere. You're kind of banging your head against the tree there, for no good reason. You've got to have faith for this to work on both sides of it. The people you deal with, for them to be delivered, they've got to have faith too. So it is a mutual cooperation thing. You got to understand that. And that's how you need to approach it with anything. It's got to be from both sides, or it ain't going to work. That's just the way it goes.
It's so true. I mean, we just have to look at the way Jesus healed, right? Jesus, who was the ultimate healer. I mean, there was two things that were always present. A, the people who was seeking healing totally believed they were going to be healed. There was not even a question in their mind that they were going to be healed. So they were in total receptive mode, so to speak. Then, of course, and when Jesus healed them, number two, he never ever saw them as sick. Jesus
said a lot of times, he said something very interesting during those healing sessions. He says, your faith has made you whole. Faith had to come from their side too. But I do remember that very interesting incident with a guy who was born blind. And Jesus asked him, what do you want me to do for you? He said, my eyes, Lord. I've been blind since birth. And Jesus actually spit on the ground and made mud with his fingers and rubbed them on that man's eyes. That was an actual recreation of that man's eyes in his head. Okay, that is to me, that is one of the most powerful acts that Jesus has walking this earth as God ever did in my book, because he was standing there actually recreating that man's eyes. And the man could see again. Had never seen in his life, he could see again. But what did he say? He said something very interesting to him after that. He said, and I think it was a psychological kind of thing, because Jesus was very smart. He was a brilliant man, okay? He always answered things in a very practical way, okay? And that's the way God operates. He told that man, he said, your faith has made you whole. Don't tell anybody about this. But the guy went out and told everybody because he kind of knew, I guess, he was going to do that, that he knew he was going to go out and tell everybody. But he did that for two reasons, I think. He did that because he knew the word would get out and the guy would have a testimony, but also to kind of keep things quiet so that was a very, very vivid miracle there. That's a very interesting. You could write a book on just that one thing that happened that day, because that is a very deep, deep thing that happened. And the other second greatest miracle he performed was Lazarus. You raise somebody from the dead. That's a miracle in my book. I don't care which way you look at it. These were different things. Now, a lot of people say, well, Lazarus didn't have faith. Lazarus was dead. Okay. But Jesus, what did Jesus say? He said something very interesting at the very beginning of that. He said, Lord, I know you can do this, God. I know you can do this, but do this for everybody around here that's watching so that they can see what you can do. So it wasn't a matter of faith on Lazarus' part that brought him back, okay? That's a different thing. He didn't say that to Lazarus like he said to the guy with the eyes. He said, do this, Lord, and show everybody what you can do. Because he knew that in a few short years, God was going to do the same thing all over again with him. So it's interesting stuff like that when you get into that, what faith does and activates things, but it's got to be both ways. But there are some instances where it isn't both ways. I have known many times where people were healed that was not an act of faith on their part. God just healed them because it was something he needed to do. I can tell you angel stories. From we could sit here to this time tomorrow talking about angels and the things that they do. It's amazing. That's another good show for a future thing. The Real Good Angels. Okay, I like them better. By the way, they're much cooler guys. Okay. Anyway, the interesting thing is they have actually healed people by a mission that God sent them on to do that. And to me, it's amazing how this works. And how God sometimes accomplishes things.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's interesting, Ladi. I like that. Wow. No, it's true, Dennis. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When we put it in a situation, and we will never know until we try it, experience it, if it's real or not. So it's really about experiencing and putting faith over fear, always. Yay, guys. Well, I want to say thank you, everybody. Dennis, thank you so much for joining me again this evening. Really appreciate your knowledge, your expertise. And to all our beautiful people in the chat, so enjoy hanging out with you again. Thank you so much. Dennis, is there anything that you maybe want to say in closing to wrap it up? And also just what's happening on your shows for the next week or so?
Well, that's why we were talking about today about shadow science. We need to recognize it when it's there. We need to see what it's up to and what the things that it's instigating against us. But we need to know that's why a lot of this cover up is going on, because they want to keep the truth from us. That's the main thing. And that's never a good thing when you hide truth from people, for whatever reason you do it. It's never good. It is really an act of enmity against you. If somebody tries to falsify the truth or hide the truth from you, that's not good. Those are not your friends, folks. Okay, they're
No.
not out to help you in any way. So we must remember the dark science has infiltrated our regular science, and we got to be very careful how we deal with that and understand what's really behind a lot of the stuff in this world and what's really going on in the background, deep in the shadows.
Right. Absolutely, Dennis. As long as you know what's going on deep in the shadows, we bring it up into the light, right?
That's true. The lies never like it when you drag them into the light.
No. Don't like exposure.
Yep.
Dennis. So where can people get a hold of you? Where can we see you for the rest of the week, Dennis?
Well, tomorrow night at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a paranormal point of view. I'm going to talk about some movie reviews and stuff like that. And then Monday, with my good friend Gerald Fountain, we will be doing another episode of The Road Less Traveled. And this one is titled Personal Poison. We're going to be talking about some things that are poisoning us in this world, deliberately poisoning us. We're going to be talking about that. And, of course, I'll be doing some other people's podcasts in the future. And you can reach me at DennisWCarroll.com. I have a paranormal consulting service. If you have any problems, questions, whatever, you can contact me through that or at DennisWCarroll@gmail.com. I also have books available for reading, and they are on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Just look up the author, Dennis W. Carroll.
Okay, hang on. I'm just going to put your ticker up here again. Now I can't flip and find it here again because my eyes are deceiving me. So give me a moment, Dennis, before your little ticker-tocker comes on here. Very bad hosting, Chantelle. Very bad hosting. That the ticker was not on. But there it is.
I have those problems too. What it is, Shanty, we need a couple of secretaries.
I know. I wish I had a few
for us there,
I wish I had a few, Dennis. My word. Anyway, so yes, and we are still going to be talking about doing a round table. What I did yesterday with Jesse Zabota is we spoke about African witch doctors and some of the African territorial spirits. So we just started looking at that. And then I know we spoke with Dennis and a couple of others who want to put together a round table and speak about a lot of that stuff. Also, Krida Mutwa's work, stuff like that. Lizards in Africa. We have lizards here.
Yeah.
We definitely have lizards here. Big chubby ones too. They like to eat a lot. They like money a lot. Right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you. Chus mawa for my throat and my chest. Tomorrow, same time, 7 p.m. GMT +2 with Arki Mara, where we're going to be talking about harvesting energy in the music industry. And that's for entertainment purposes only.
There you go.
God bless everybody. Take care. Thanks for a great show, everybody.